Hello everybody, it's Mike here at Game From Scratch, and today we're going to be checking out Character Creator 3. So what exactly is Character Creator 3 all about? Well, it is a Windows program for creating characters. Okay, it is a very well-named program, what can I say? Essentially what it is like a character creator from a video game such as, say, Fallout 4, but on crack, on steroids. This is all about creating characters in a very simple manner, but it is very game-focused. So when you're done, easily export out to FBX. You need to bring in your own materials or props or whatever, your fabric or clothing, you can. And there's even templates to make it easy to do. This thing is all about a game development workflow and includes exporters that do things like LOD automatically for you and support for various different game engines and content creation tools out of the box. So essentially, if you need to create one or more characters for your game and you don't really like modeling characters all that much, this program could be perfect for you. Now, by no means is it alone in this space. There's other programs such as Make Human, Manuel Bastoni Labs, which sadly just shut down, and then there's probably the closest equivalent, although nowhere near as capable, there was Miximo's Fuse, which I loved, and then Adobe bought them, and then now I don't love it anymore because, hey, Adobe! So anyways, this is a very capable character creator, and enough of my babbling on about it. Let's jump right in and take a look at it. Now, of course, there are two major downsides to this, and we'll get them out right away so people don't waste their time on the video if it doesn't apply to them. First off, this is Windows software, so if you are on Mac or Linux, I'm sorry, you are out of luck. It is quite possible that this will run under Wine. I have no idea. Haven't tested it myself. I do need to get a version of Linux and Wine up so that I can say in the future if things do or don't run under Wine, but I don't know. It was officially supported on Windows only. On top of that, this is commercial software, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But here you can see it is up and running. I'm using one of their templates out of the box. This is for a warrior, and here you can see very good responsiveness. It looks really sharp. Now, that's another aspect of it as well. They've got integration as an option for iRay. So if you want to do rendering inside of this thing, that is also an option for you. I actually honestly don't know a lot of purpose for it because I would almost always think that you would export out of this into a full-fat 3D editing environment if you wanted to do such a thing, but there is rendering functionality available for you. But you can see a pretty good idea of the kind of work that you can get out of this thing. It is a sharp-looking program by any definition of the word. Your controls are pretty straightforward. You pan around, move, orbit the camera, or pan around, move, and orbit in particular pieces of the person. Now, let's actually jump in and start from scratch. We're going to show you the process of actually creating your own character from the very basics. So we can start off, you could start with a template and just literally drag and drop out in the scene. It's going to ask you if you want to replace, but I'll do it this way. So we're going to come up here, we're going to File, and we'll create a new project. No saving there. Now, this takes a couple of seconds. It's not really that long, but let's give it a second. Now, one thing I got to be very careful of with YouTube here is that I don't accidentally create nudity. It's very, very simple to do in this program. You just basically delete the clothing, or you start with the wrong template and you have breasts on screen, or Barbie-level genitalia. I don't want to get myself in trouble with YouTube, so let us leave all of said clothing on, which is another reason why I'm starting from scratch. Because if you actually start from the full template for the base template for 3D women, you end up with something that isn't YouTube friendly. So here we go. We've just created our new model. You'll notice here we are using the mesh. We have a male base mesh. Everything is based off of this base meshing. And then what you do basically is modify it to fit your needs. You can do so through a series of ways. We can basically add new content to this person. So for example, we can come up here, we could give her a hat, or we can do body morph. So for example, this girl's a little too thin for us. We could grab a heavy female frame, drop this onto the model, and that will morph the base mesh. So you're basically modifying a base mesh to create the end results that you want. Let's go back to something slightly more svelte. And here we go. Now, one thing that is very common and oftentimes very much lacking in these kind of things is hair. So you see, I've downloaded a number of hair, and let's give her ponytail and some hair going on. Again, literally, you bring it into the scene, drag and drop, and voila, you have hair. So it's very easy to use, definitely. And then you see basically the rest of the process is about the same. So here's your base meshes. I'm not going to create any accidental nudity here. But if you just wanted to start from scratch as a male or as a female, you could just start with one of those two different base meshes. We're using one of them as, in this case, as you can obviously tell. And we can give some clothing. So there is camisole. I would come in here, give some pants, give some biker jeans going on here. We could go ahead and get some, hey, where did boots go? Oh, boots. All right, give some boots. And you have essentially dressed your own character. Now, once again, you can create all of these things yourself. So if you want to bring in your own model for, armored van braces, or you're doing a future cyberpunk thing where your character's created out of, various bits of tech fetish, you can easily model that in your application of choice and bring it in. They have full documentation on how to do that. And in the case of fabrics, they actually have FBX and OBJ format templates that you can download to start from. So if you're creating, cloth of some form, there's actually a template to start from. So making your own furnishings, fabrics and clothing is actually fairly simple here. So there we go. We've basically dressed up our character as you've seen. We've also come over here a little bit and get into different poses. So already see you're dealing with the standard T-pose. And when you're dealing with games, generally that is something you are going to use yourself. So T-poses are, it's kind of the standard for animation. It's just sort of where you start from. But if you want to model or shape or look in a specific way, there are a number of different poses available, as you can see. And you can just basically instantly apply them. Changes the scene around. But again, if you are working in game development, almost always it's the T-pose that you are probably going to want to work with. But as you see, there is a full animation system in here. Unfortunately, there is no keyframing. So you can't define your own animation, so you can't create like a walk cycle or anything like that in here. You still need to export that out to your game engine or content creation tool to do so, which is a shame. I would actually love to see that functionality added. Now, the biggest thing that we're kind of glossing over is how do I actually tweak this base model that we're dealing with? So we've created a model and we've played dress up with it, but I want to actually customize this model. Well, you'll notice as I'm mousing over things, I have cursor options. So if I want to give this person a little bit better biceps, I can just click over that, and then we can just go one direction. Oops, we can go longer, we can go shorter, or we can go up and down to scale it up and down. So we can control each aspect, and as I mouse over the base mesh, you'll see all the various different pieces that go together to create this. You can grab any one of them and drag and drop them to modify them. So there's one way of definitely modifying your character, but you can also do it over here. So we switch over here to this tab right here, and then you see, let me just expand that out a bit so you can actually see. Come on, mouse. There we go. So you've got the actor, ignoring all the other stuff that we've added on, like the cloth, etc. So you see here, we've got the actor and then the various pieces that went together to create that actor. It's just like when you go through a game creator and you're doing things like body, hair, so on. So for example, I come in here to the full body and you'll see we have various different mix-ins that we can use. So for example, there's the CC base female. We could make this person more male on the fly. And this is actually kind of creepy when you see it happen. So let me just position her down a bit so you can see this happen. All right, so here we're going to mix in a bit of male. And you see we just sort of become more masculine. Or I could even go up here and mix in some gorilla. And watch the face. It's just freaky. So anyways, that's the top level mix in. And generally you're not going to work on that level. If you want to make your character a bit more of a baby, I guess, you can do so. Which is, again, kind of creepy. But, oops, went way too far. Generally, you're not going to work at those top level very, very often, other than to initially set your base. But what you normally will do is instead drill down into the sub pieces. So we come here, you see the arms. So now we've got fine-tuned control over every aspect of the arm. So I can change the inner forearm, the upper arm. So you see right there, we're affecting how that's done. And all of the pieces of the base mesh can now be modified using these sliders. And as you can see, there is a sickening amount of them available. The hand here as well. So you've got palm scale, knuckle size. You've got all kinds of control over pretty much every single aspect of your character. We go down here to waist. We can increase our waistline. You see very, very slight effect there, but it is there. We can probably, is hips in here? I can give her a muffin top if we so wish. Like so. So you see, you've got all kinds of controls over various different aspects of your character mesh. And then, of course, you've also got the same functionality for the head. So we can actually mix in the heads. We can make her younger faced, older faced, square faced, and mix it up using just overall rough set values, or you can go all in with each individual value, change out how the eyes look, how the face look, how the jaws work, you can literally spend days in here tweaking things. And pretty much every single element of the base mesh is configurable here using these slider materials. So it's just, as I mentioned earlier on, it is like a high-end game creator in something like Fallout 4, just on steroids, the amount of stuff you can do here. But you can tweak and tweak and tweak to your heart's content, so you ultimately end up with a character that looks like a character. Now, the cool thing about this level of flexibility means that characters created inside of Character Creator aren't going to immediately look like characters created inside of Character Creator. So it does make it look like a custom mesh as opposed to an automatically generated mesh or one that you downloaded off of an app store somewhere. So that's definitely one of the major aspects going on here. So that is how you ultimately customize your character. Now, what gets even cooler here, and this is what really kind of, in some way, sets Character Creator apart from a couple of the other options out there, is you can actually go one step deeper, go in here to Edit Mesh, and actually literally edit the mesh. So you can grab and move and tweak. So you can use soft selection. So I could, soft select a certain area, and we can do... we can move it around. And so you can actually get in and directly modify face-based, vertex-based, element-based, and there's even sculpting tools built in here. So if you wanted to sculpt some details into the mesh, that functionality is built directly into Character Creator. So that is very rare. That is not functionality that is generally out there. Now, another thing you may have noticed in this one was I was quickly changing pose sets. So when we came up here in the pose mode, I could switch between a T-pose and this pose almost instantly. So I will go back to T-pose again. So how exactly is this posing working? Well, if you haven't guessed it already, this is a bone-based product. So you actually, just like you generally do in 99.9% of 3D games, you define your animation using poses. So let me just bring that up, go over here. So we go to Edit Pose, and then you will see there is the superimposed skeleton of our creation. So then we can do things, come down here, we can change the key settings. We can actually select part of our character automatically. So we can grab the shoulders or we can grab the hand. It is a full IK based setting. So what we can do is grab, say, the right hand here. And then if we move it, everything follows accordingly to the point of, my back. So you see, you do have full-blown skeletal animation behind your model. And then what's very, very cool is when you go ahead and export this model out, you do get all of that skeletal information. So let's just exit that one out. You've also got the ability to tweak and customize the bone placement. You saw right down here, there's adjust bones available right here. So you can move around your bones and change the way that they work. You can change the bone types in both the body or in the face, a level of detail that you want to have. You can have the eyes or teeth also animated. And speaking of face, let me just get out of here. How do I actually exit that? All right, here we go. Now let's go back to a straight out T-pose. The face, you can actually go ahead and do facial poses right off the hop. So let me go into the female here, and let's put in a relaxed face. And then boom, it will deform the face of the base mesh for the pose you are looking for. So there is a lot of power and flexibility in what you can do here. Now we're getting into an area where I find slightly less useful, at least from the perspective of a game developer, but you also have the ability, if you have the iRay rendering functionality as well, you'll see it sold modularly. We'll see that in a second. But you can come down here and actually set up, so you see here we've got an HDRI scene going on. So it's blurred right now, so it's not completely obvious. But you see it's there in the background, and that is what is lighting the scene. I can come in here and change that out to a different setting, and we will immediately get different lighting as a result. So let's put her in the woods. And there you see she is now walking in the woods. We can change the strength or the intensity of our HDRI scene. We can put the blurriness back in. So there is full HDRI there. And then when you get into, if you want to, for rendering, you have full rendering. So we go here, we can do things in the scene. This is basically your scene graph. It is everything here. Here's our character. Here are the various lights that are set up in our scene, the sky settings and the camera settings. You'll notice when you've got a particular thing set, you've got a whole bunch of options over here. So you can change how things look. So if we want to have a 50mm camera, if we want to change the focal length, it's all available over here. We can change it. We can turn depth of field on and off, focal distance out for that. You've got a whole lot of settings there for camera and rendering. And then once you're ready to render, you can come on down here, basically pick the resolution you want to render to, pick the sampling and the shadow quality and click render, and it will create a PNG file for you. Going back here, we have another couple of options. Okay, so that's all your lighting. We can do things like turn ambient occlusion on and off, change HDR effect on and off. And then back in the content, there's actually, if you go up here to the scene category, we have pre-configured cameras. We have props that can be added into the scene. So for example, softbox, we can add a softbox into the scene in the background there. So if you wanted to create a studio style virtual light up setup, all of the functionality is in here. We've got special effects that we can actually apply. So for example, I want to apply a lens blur to our camera, I can do so directly here. Or if I want to go non-photorealistic rendering, I can do that as well. I'm making something that is pretty much hideous at this point, but you get the idea. You got lighting settings here. We saw some of these already in action. So you do have a bunch of rendering presets and templates that you can bring in that you can use for rendering stills. Again, I don't see a lot of use for game development for creating renders directly in here. I think most people would bring it off into another tool of some kind. But on that particular topic, first off, let me just check for a second. I'll live with it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is quickly load a template back up. So let's just come in here. I'll show you the process of loading a template. So say we want to bring in this warrior. We'll get something that actually looks good to continue. I don't need to save. So I have rendered this model pretty much hideously unuseful at this point in time. So we're just going to let this bring in one of their pre-configured templates. And I will just hit pause for a sec. This doesn't take too long, but you don't want to listen to me if you don't have to. Okay, that was like 12 seconds later. But here you can see one of the pre-configured templates. Now I'm going to show you where this thing really shines for game development. And there's a couple things you may have noticed here as we were dealing here. First off, we've got this convert to game base, and we've got this instant LOD. Well, that's the stuff that absolutely shines for game development. Now, do warn you, once you convert to game base, a lot of your functionality goes away. So you've got these things like right now I can do changes to the biceps, to the stuff that he's wearing, to his helmet, to whatever. I can change all of those things. Well, once I've done this, I can't anymore. And actually, before I do that, there is one thing I didn't show you, and this is actually really cool. So let us go in here. It's a scene. Let's see, what would that be called? Helmet. I think this has it. So one thing I didn't demonstrate, let's see if anything here has it. Darn, nothing here has it. Crap. It's a shame because some of the materials or features are actually powered by Substance Designer or Substance Material. For example, when you bring that first model in or you create one from scratch and there's a bikini, that's actually created by Substance Designer as a material. And you can actually go in and change it on the fly, which is pretty awesome stuff. Unfortunately, these weren't created using Substance from the looks of things, so I can't activate Appearance Editor, so we can't change that on the fly, which is unfortunate. Now, you do have the ability to come in here and do a lot of tight level control over the texture maps that are being used and the process. So here's all the various textures that go together to create this guy. But I can't show you that Substance integration, unfortunately, now that I nuked my own character to show you this one. But without further ado, let's head on back over here. So what you'll see is... Okay, without shoe selected, so with our base entire character selected here, what I can do is go ahead and say convert this guy to a game base, and then I have a choice. Do I want to create the UV type as one single material or multiple material UVs? A lot of times when you're doing game development, you probably want to do a single material UV set, and then you can pick the pixel size of it. So 2048 is pretty common size. We'll go ahead with that. We'll save this guy out or convert him to a game base model. Bum, bum, bum. So now this is turning this into a more game-ready model. So what we've done is, I'm not actually sure the exact different things. We changed out the texturing on it. We've baked the textures down to the 2048 thing. We've set the UV set to more game-ready thing. I think we've done some tessellation on the mesh at this point in time, but we'll get back into that a little bit more at this point in time too. So at this point in time, you've got a much more game-ready model. Now you've got less options. I can't now, as soon as this is done, bum, 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 bum. All right, so there we go. We are now in game. Oh, come on. Thought we were done. 100%. Okay, so now this guy is game ready. A little bit less what we could do with it, but this guy is still ready to go. Now what we can do, come up here and go to File, and I can do an export. And this is where you start seeing again how game oriented this guy really is. So here we've got a couple of options: iAvatar, OBJ, which is like a static mesh for the nude character, or FBX, which is the full clothed character. And then you see up here, you have a choice between the various different things to export for. So you've got pre-configurations for Maya, 3D Studios Max, Unity 3D, Unreal Engine, Motion Builder, Blender, Cinema 4D. So pretty much most of the platforms that you'd probably want to hit for, they're already there. So if I'm going to export this guy out for Unity, I can say my game was called Mike's game, and then it was assets, so MGS. I could have that as the prefix for all of the different files that are exported on this, or it could just be Viking and then underscore, then all the various different pieces are going to come out as a result. Embed the textures, yes or no. We can set the maximum texture size. We can set the maximum texture, or sorry, the ideal texture format. So if we want to export them out as PNGs or Targa or whatever, we can. We can delete hidden meshes if we so wish. And then here is where it gets really cool. We can also do instant LOD, or level of detail. And what we can have is this create various different runs a remesher on us and creates different versions of the mesh. So you can have one for when you're very close to it, and then you can have a much lower polygonal version of it for when it is further and further away. So that's pretty sweet as well. And we can also in that have it merge down the UV sets for us. And then once we are good and ready to go, we just go ahead and create this guy, click OK. We'll go up here. We will call this, make a new folder called Viking. Open it up. We will call it Viking and save. Let this run. Dun dun dun. And go, go. Go, go. Go. So it can take a few seconds. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes here. But the last time I paused it, when it was immediately done, it finished pretty much as soon as I paused it. So now that I'm not going to pause the video, this is going to probably take like 2 minutes. Art in progress bar is great. Okay, so let that guy run. And run. Alright, to hell with it, I'm pausing it. And then I paused it and immediately finished. So, we've created that. Go down here, go into our temp folder. I called that guy Viking. Go in, there is our FBX file that it generated. Let's open that up. Here we are in the standard Autodesk FBX format, so you can have an idea of what this will look like for Game Engine Ready. And it is picture perfect. Let's turn polygonal rendering. Here, let's just zoom this guy up. Over, and there we go. So there is our game ready to use model. Pretty cool stuff. And I think I can get details up here. Can I get details? No, I don't think I can. So I don't know what my polygon count is on this guy. Unfortunately, this guy isn't going to show me. And I'm not going to bother opening it into something else. But I didn't run through the different LODs. So we could have created multiple LODs for this guy. But in this particular case, I didn't. Not really sure what animations that he's got configured. Okay. Inherited that from somewhere, was not really expecting that. So I did import some motions on him apparently that I didn't know about. Yeah. So again, you can't keyframe animations, but apparently you can import and apply them. So yeah, I'm going to show you one last thing before we get to the specific details of this guy, and that is going to involve me basically, I'll create a base mesh again, and I'll pause for that. So be right back. Okay, so here we are, back to a base mesh, and here I'm going to talk about that material thing I was just mentioning that unfortunately I didn't have any examples to show you with before. So here we have this underwear bottoms and bra right here. So that bra is substance oriented. So see right here it says dynamic appearance editor powered by algorithmic substance. So you can choose if it is a substance material, which this one actually is. We can activate the appearance editor, and this loads in a version or a subset of substance that you can then use to modify said material. So again, we're working with the bra up here. So now that that's open, you see we've got additional options here, and it breaks down into, so the decals on it, for example, Decal 1 is type none, none, none. Okay, so we don't have any decals. Material, base, fabric. So we could change our fabric to a metallic fabric. So we now have a metal bra. If we were like share, we could have it back to fabric. We can change it between different material types. So for example, a sweater material instead of denim, or we could switch to cotton, for example. Then you can come in here, you can change out different values on it that way. Yeah, so you can see you can go with generators in substance, so a leather or wood generator. So you basically have a subset of substance functionality built in right here for modifying those particular pieces. So we've got a chrysanthemum pattern going on right now. I could come in here and say, oh, no, we want instead a fleur-de-lis. So now we have little fleur-de-lis instead. You can't really tell. So this is for my Quebecois audience. There you go. So now we have a completely different material, all from that one base material. So there's some real power locked away behind this guy. Now, unfortunately, this only will work on materials that were defined using Substance Designer. So if the material provided to you or the material that you created yourself was created in Substance, you have full editor access to the properties that actually control creation of those materials. And as you just saw from this demonstration, there is a heck of a lot of customization abilities there when it is a substance material. So I figured I'd show you that very quickly, and I've rambled on way long enough about this program. Let's get into a couple of the details about it, and then I will wrap things up. Now, first one actually is the price. I guess that's the big one in general anyways. So I've head on over to the Character Creator website. I will toss this link down below. So if you're interested in picking it up, well, if you're watching this in real time, the cool thing is it is on sale right now. Coincidentally, it was on sale during the Black Friday, I think for a third off. So this is one of those programs that does traditionally go on sale on a periodic basis. So you can generally get it at about 33% off. So, you know, wait to save. But you can see, we'll go in here, we'll look at the details of the pricing in general and as it is on sale. So you see, here's the Character Creator 3 pipeline. That is kind of the guts of the program minus the rendering bit. So if you don't need to render, you don't need to use that iRay stuff, you probably can get by with this one. And as you can see, the pricing is $149 US on sale, or $200 US as the full price. Now, on top of that, you can bundle it in with the renderer for $200, and then you can also get into the Essentials bundle, which is, okay, not safe for YouTube. Okay, that's going to require some blurring. Okay, I'm not going to go into a lot of details about that one because I don't really want to be demonetized. So there's that one as well. Let's head on back over here, and hopefully let's just get all the nudity off screen. Yeah, so as I mentioned up front early on, this is an easy program to accidentally create nudity in, as you just saw. So that is Character Creator 3. It is a very focused tool in what it does. It is all about creating, and I suppose to a certain degree posing and rendering, but creating characters that are fully rigged, and it gives you a heck of a lot of power to do so, right down to the ability to actually, you know, edit the maps that are involved, the materials involved, the vertices that are involved, sculpt and tweak, fine-tune detail. But ultimately, you are dealing with algorithmic base meshes that you are modifying and twisting and working to your needs. So it is a quick workflow. So if you do need to create a number of character meshes for your game, this is definitely a program to consider checking out, especially because it is focused towards game development. As you saw, when we went to do that export, it is pre-configured for Max Maya, Unity, Unreal Engine, Blender. It is designed to slot directly into that workflow. And of course, you've got the LOD stuff, and the full skeletal detail goes over. So if, for example, you wanted to bring everything out and drop some Mixamo animations on your created character, you can do so. So you can actually get animated, fully modeled, fully textured characters with kind of a minimal amount of skill out of this program, which is really impressive in my honest opinion. And then as a result, the fact that the meshes, that the game mesh functionality and the LOD stuff, it does create something, you know, it doesn't create something that's got 500,000 polygons. It creates something that is actually genuinely useful for game development in its final form. So that is Character Creator 3 from Real Illusion, or Reallusion. Yeah, I've been calling it Real Illusion because my brain is just not working right. But I guess it's Reallusion. And yeah, let me know what you think. Now, of course, I know some of you are obviously going to be Windows only, nah. And I know some of you are going to be, oh, commercial only, nah. But for the rest of you, what did you think of that program in the end? Also, do be aware you can download a fairly full function version of this to try it out yourself. I don't know what the limitations are on that. Head on back over here. Let's go to the try and hopefully not have any more nudity. Experience full functions. It is just limited by... So you get a bunch of trial assets to actually work with. Oh, more accidental nudity. You get sample projects to work with. I think the rendering is definitely limited. It might be export limited as well. Oh, here we go. 10 times of trial usage in total. So you can even export out to various different other platforms and see what the end results are. So you'll be amazed. This is a remarkably limited demo. So you're looking at, you get 30 days of functionality on that. You get 10 trial exports total for either FBX or object format for testing in your game engine. And then the rendering is limited unless you download the iRay functionality, and the iRay functionality, again, has some kind of a trial limit as well. So yeah, you can use and try out like 99% of what I demonstrated to you for 30 days with this download here. So if you like what you saw today, you can definitely check it out here. There also seems to be DX11 support. You've got certain requirements there as well, but your minimum system requirements, even your recommended, isn't really that impressive. Intel i5, 16 gigs of RAM, an SSD, an NVIDIA GTX 900 series or better, or an R7 300 series or better, and 4 gigs of video RAM, where your minimum is a computer with a graphics processor from the last 5 years. So really, it's not that strict or stringent to run. It's run flawlessly on me on all 3 different machines I've tried it on, of varying different calibers. So you should be able to run it unless you've got a very antiquated machine, that is. All right, hopefully you found that useful. Let me know what you think of this in the comments down below. In a lot of ways, it's a lot like a more powerful version of Mixamo Fuse, and I loved Mixamo Fuse. If you go back through my channel, I actually did a video on it pretty much just before Adobe bought and ruined Mixamo, but this is sort of that and a whole lot more. It's a lot more capable, probably a little bit harder to work with, but probably 10 times the functionality that Fuse had for, I think, about twice the price tag. So all told, pretty reasonable on the whole. All right, let me know what you think, and I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.